It's
what is this? All right. Welcome, everybody, to October 4th, Live with Lussetto. We've got Dan Christensen and Jazz helping me, and we got a special guest tonight, Jason Grout. Jason, you might kind of explain to me some things. I mean, you've owned a few titles here. What's your newest one?
I have to be honest with you, Greg. I have no idea. I just kind of show up on the pools, and then they decide if I'm announcing or flagging. So,
well, what's your favorite
this
job?
Weekend I ended up,
you've also flagged and done a few things.
There we go.
Yep, I've mostly this year I spent as the starting line flagman for the group. And when our regular announcer wanted to show up, obviously they threw me in the booth and stuck a microphone in front of me. And then this past weekend up in Rush, me and the regular announcer, we kind of tag teamed it. And I think that went very well.
Yeah,
I guess we might step back. Jason, you might just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and where you're from and everything. Just for we've got several people, they probably don't recognize you.
Born and raised in Denver, Colorado. I grew up going to the truck and tractor pools here in the Colorado area. Greeley, when they used to run them at the old Rocky Mountain Speedway when it used to be a half mile. So I kind of, grew up, like watching your family, Greg, and a lot of the old school guys pull and that. And then a few years ago, as an adult, I got to help Shannon Coolman with Poor Boy. Started helping him. Then I was helping Dirk Barley when they were out here, and then the JD Farms team the last few years. And then last year I got hooked in with Nicole and them to help them out with the bulls for NSPA.
Okay. And then like you were saying, you've done several jobs. You've flagged a little, and I think you also flagged for Jeff Darnell with the first oh my goodness, was it? I can't forget the name, but the Windsor, Colorado.
Oh,
you
yes,
also
I did. Yes, I did. Because that was technically an NSPA pool. So, but
yes.
Yeah, I was did that too. So, and that was fun.
Yep. Let's skip those.
And then I didn't do it this year, but the last couple of years I had my own show where I was helping promote both NSPA and Heartland. With my shows and that. So
are you still doing that podcast or
no, I took this year off because I had some things going on, in the background, personal life and that, but I plan on to next year redoing it and incorporate more motorsport stuff, not just truck and tractor pulling, but try to do some more of the motorsport stuff as a whole.
And one other thing too, I might add, I see in the past you've done stuff with the RC pulling too, as well, correct?
Yes, we used to have a group here in Colorado. I used to be the one that brought the most RC rigs with me. I have a replica of $5 hooker. I even have a special build of a modified tractor that I emailed Tim Engler on and asked if I could name it Mission Impossible. A week later, he got back to me and said, yes, you can go ahead and name it Mission Impossible. So I have an RC Mission Impossible. And then the last year that we pulled, I had a stretched, what we call our super modified two-wheel drive class. And I had a wrap done on it to make it look like Dallas Schneider's Good Times.
Oh, nice. Have you, and I'm just going to kind of go off on a tangent a little bit, but have you seen Dallas's truck or know the whereabouts of it?
As far as I know of, Dallas still has it, and it's probably sitting in his garage somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, very cool. That was always a long time.
That's one truck that I would hate to see leave this area.
Yes. Yeah. Along with that, it was very cool to see the Showgirl make an appearance this summer. That's one that's been in hibernation for a darn long time,
very
too.
Cool.
Nice.
Yes. And I didn't know that Jeff was related to Merle.
Oh, absolutely. You take the Luthers and see, it would be, I think, Merle's sister would be Jeff and Mark's mom, because Chuck Van Berber was a longtime tech and flag guy for the Colorado tractor pullers. I mean, long as I can remember, quite frankly.
Yeah, I used to Merle with his what was it? His Ford truck that used to have the Chevy engine in it. The Better Idea was always one of my favorite two-wheel drives. I think between Merle's Better Idea, Dallas's Good Times, and Gary's Voorhees and the Sting, those were my three favorite two-wheel drive trucks.
Yeah. At one time there was a lot of two-wheel drive trucks when the inception of the two-wheel drive trucks happened in TPA. There was quite a few out in Colorado.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of sad now that we only get one or two, depending on which event and that we're at. But I would love to see more two-wheel drives come out.
Oh, that's a great class. It just in my opinion, the hard thing is, and I'll tell you, this is something, and I had a conversation with Jarrett Ratliff that also works with you with this at Mitchell. We have a problem with the aging population in our pulling groups out west, especially. And if you look, we lost guys like Dallas, Merle, you can go on down the list, and we just never got any replacements. And that's, I don't have an answer for what we do to get replacements. I wish I did, but that's going to be a big issue.
Right. Yeah, because it's, like now, I mean, kind of in our area, our two biggest ones that we have that have been pulling for years, especially in the Colorado area, is Ron Green and Bill Schwartz.
Yeah. And the junkyard dog is
once
another.
Those two go.
Bill doesn't look like there's really much. I mean, I see his kids. I had not seen his kids for a long time. I saw one of them. I can't remember if it was Nebraska State Fair or something that went with him, but he's been doing it more and more by himself, and it doesn't look like there's probably much of a succession plan there. At least Ron's got a lot of family, a lot of family pulling right now, which is good to hope, that will continue on.
Yes. But yeah, that'll be a sad day, at least in my lifetime of seeing the junkyard dog as a kid. That once Bill goes, like you said, who knows what's going to happen to that truck?
Oh, and the history in it too is just amazing. That I still laugh every time I see the Region 3 champ and 83, 4, and 5 is still hand painted on the back of that truck. Pretty cool to see that. It's better than your stickers, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then I tell you, go back too. The other thing is, you go back and look. It's neat. You can find stuff on YouTube to see NTPA pulls in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and different places. And the old kamikaze. I mean, I think we're 4 versions down or 5 versions down the road since then. But Ron Green's been at it a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that when that class comes up and Ron comes up to pull, and when I announce, that's one of the things I bring up is that as far as I can remember, he's only had Lucky Sevens and Jackpot are the only 2 trucks that he's ever had without the kamikaze moniker on it.
Right. No, that was That was a long time name.
Yes.
I'll bet you I remember it as far back as the middle 80s.
You know, now yeah. Because I think that was when he had that black truck, like the black S10 with the red and yellow stripes on it, I think.
Oh man. See, I remember the first one being white. Like a white S10, and I swear it was
I
like
remember he had
late
a white one as
80s.
well. Yeah.
And had the red Budweiser logo on the front because he was always sponsored by the Budweiser distributor there in Fort Collins or wherever that is.
Really?
I think it was Fort Collins. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
another thing too that's kind of amazing is you look at the sponsorship we probably had more sponsored vehicles back in the day than we do now.
Oh,
Between
definitely.
The Budweiser sponsored there, the Jolly Rancher, that was always a favorite. It was me as a little kid, because they handed out candy and always had the stagecoach there, and it was a really neat deal.
Yeah,
now, was that
the good old times, unfortunately, are not.
What's that?
Which one?
Yeah, did you both talk?
But no, like I was saying, the old days have kind of gone away from us on that. And it was like when I was talking to Kyle on Saturday when I was interviewing him, where he had made mention as a kid of going out there with you and your brother Greg and playing in the dirt, with some of the other guys that are pulling now and that with their tractors and that. So it's like, the old days of pulling and seeing the newer, it's kind of second, third generation, still coming out, and that it's good to see that at least pulling still has some life left in it, but it's not like the old days of from growing up.
True. But I'll go back a step farther. Before Kyle and I'll be honestly, Kyle Lay and Shelby Lay, before that, I remember watching the whole Green family grow up. I remember Zach Green tearing around on a little 50 Honda motorcycle when he couldn't have been over 6 years old, So we watched all of them,
Yep.
I remember going to those pulls down there, even, honestly, way before I could have driven, I was just a little kid as well, So yeah, it's been multiple generations.
When did you get your start, Greg?
Well, see, my tractor, the first tractor I got out was in 93. I got out mid-year of 93 with my alcohol tractor, but my parents had been pulling since 71. So. So no, it'd been, long time.
So, I mean, it's, been a long time. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's a sport that I still love, and I love dirt track racing too. But my home, to me, I feel my home is right there in truck and tractor pulling, because that's what I grew up on as a kid. Like I said, seeing it here, watching it on TV, when they showed it on TV for the NTPA, the old ATPA, and all that. So it's like pulling is home for me,
So I have to ask, you never lived anywhere really outside of Denver or that area then?
Nope. I only lived 1 year when I was out in college in Grand Junction, but I've always lived right here in Denver. In fact, probably one of the very rare people that still live in the house that I was born in.
Oh, wow. Well, I tell you, the neat part about that is, we have a lot of fans that may be in this area that got exposed to pulling elsewhere. And that's kind of neat that you actually were influenced by the pulling that happened here, because that does get lost. A lot of people don't realize that NTPA had a big presence in Colorado at one time. It was actually a very large member state. Gary Sporthays was on the national board they had vice presidents and regions,
Yes.
and he was one of the region president or vice presidents.
I didn't know that.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Gary was a big part of that. So,
Huh.
and then also there was
you kind of wish you could still have those old regions again, and that to see some of those guys in that, because I mean, between both NTPA and PPL, I mean, the closest that they get is like Missouri.
Say that again, Jason.
I said it's hard to wish you could go back to those days and when you can get the old region pulls again from like NTPA and that, because really between NTPA and PPL, I think the only furthest west that they come is Missouri and Wheatland.
Well, see, NTPA, honestly, they get into Rockwell, like central Iowa. There's just maybe one pull, and they do sanction United Pullers of Minnesota, UPM. Missouri, I don't know if there's any NTPA stuff left. PPL, you will get. After Wheatland, there's not any Champions Tour stuff that I'm aware of. I mean, it has just gradually moved east. The outlaw deal has kind of solidified that, eastern Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri stuff. And then there's also the PPL Western Series. But yeah, all of it has crept farther east. I mean, shoot, we used to have Grand National pulls, 2 of them in the state of Nebraska, and Colorado for a long time. Greeley was a Grand National pull as well, and go way back. They had a very, very nice indoor pull in the Coliseum in Denver.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy to look back at all the big names that were there. I mean, it was a big deal, like in 1980.
Huh.
So yeah, a lot of pulling
with
history.
The old United States Hot Rod Association.
It's kind of to be honest with you, it's kind of got lost, and it's unfortunate,
Yes, it has, and it's it takes the people that have kind of grew up in it to kind of research it and try to bring some of it back and find some of the history on it, and things like that. And it's like there's times where I sit here and have nothing to do, and I go on YouTube and try to find old pulling videos from the region to watch.
Yeah. And I don't know, did Dan talk to you about him coming back and traveling around Colorado pulling too? There's some good stories there, right? In fact, you told me the first time you ever hooked Dan was in Colorado, that you drove a big tractor.
Yeah, in Pueblo, Colorado. Yep. And I don't know what year that was, 98 maybe, 90, 97, 98.
Yeah, we didn't get down to that. I don't quite remember. I remember because you guys hooked, he come around James McGuire and hooked in, I know Brighton and several pulls in Colorado that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. That was probably when I was on my circle track hiatus. Because I think that was the time when I was helping a friend of mine up at Colorado National Speedway pit his late model up there.
Yeah. And and this is kind of getting back into some old stuff too. At one time, the Colorado truck and tractor pullers I'm trying to think in about 05, 06, I think we had 20 pulls in the region.
Wow.
It was really kind of crazy, 2 days in Brighton, which Brighton was always the pinnacle of it, and Liberal, right. Garden City, 2 or 3 New Mexico pulls, including Farmington,
really,
Grand Junction. It was amazing what was going on back in those days.
Huh. That was the early 2000s.
Yeah, and now that's an organization that is no more.
Yeah, it's done, and that was the old original NTPA group. What'd you say, Dan?
What year was that then? Years early 2000s or?
No, 2004. We purchased the Orange Bower sled as a group, an organization.
Okay.
So it was after that. It was right in that time frame, probably 05, maybe
Okay.
06. Dang grandkids. So, but yeah, no,
Fourth
that was quite
generation Lussetto pulling team.
yeah, someday maybe. But yeah, no, that it was kind of crazy what was going on back in those days, because there was some there was a lot of pullers, and the Sonny Martinez's, and guys out of New Mexico come up, Greg Urban, Craig Clark is a name that gets lost, that used to be a longtime puller with mods, and even Gary Barons and oh goodness, I'm going to forget a name, but Gary Burns and that's a second generation deal. They came out here with their turbine called the Juice and hooked out here occasionally.
Well, and that's like even you would even get what is it, Terry? Can't think of his last name. It's TJ Hooker, 2-wheel drive.
Oh, Terry Tomera.
And then his friend that used to have, and then and Black Bart.
Yeah, Jack Miller
used to come.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate deal.
Yeah.
You take in the last year we lost Jack Miller and the guy just Sonny Martinez as well, and that's unfortunate. Those are two long time guys in our region, so to speak. I mean, they're a ways away yet. But...
Yeah.
So, well, Jason, did you want to talk a little bit about
the old
brush
pull?
pull?
Away. Sure.
You guys
we
had
actually
very nice turnout.
A good turnout. We had about 46 hooks. And of course, it was our last one of the season. So and for most people who don't follow NSPA or pulling in general, most tracks that we all go to as pullers or as officials, we have an area that we can be able to move the sled left to right, depending on what the pullers want. In brush, it's unique because we're still within the rodeo arena, and we have one spot to put that sled. So it makes it challenging to where the pullers have to kind of angle or drive to the area on the track that they really want to be on. So it really makes that starting line get chewed up and beat up a lot. But we had to open up our show. We had Trevor Davies in the antique tractor class. He had a really nice looking old school John Deere. Went a distance of 283.2. Then we had one guest street stock show up, Dalton Huffaker, 275.73. Then we had 6 good-looking work stock diesel trucks show up. Mike Davies ended up winning that class at 360.66. Now keep that distance in mind because I'll come back to that here in a little bit. Paul Speck at 330.12. Jade Queen at 301.46. Marshall Queen at 294.90. Casey Satterley 252.62. And Matthew Holdrum at 206.95. And then we had a couple of exhibition guys, Jim Luce at 343.18, and Daniel Harmon at 248.73. And then we had some visitors come in for the Econo Mod small blocks, and we had Kyle Lussetto winning that at 277.76, and Sharon Cooley at 2.53. And Sharon started the class, and she got squirrely and went towards the right side out of bounds line and ended up getting kissed by the sled. So she came back around, and actually her second pass was a lot straighter and a lot better. And then to come close to Kyle there was really good. Then we went into our Pro Stock 4-wheel drives. We had 7 show up this week, and every single one of these trucks in this class on any given week can actually win the class. And at this time, we actually had Greg Dardanis in the hog at 301.04. Mike Franklin in danger zone at 299.45. Riley Chestnut burning the midnight oil, 298.05. Greg Dardanis in the Zach Green truck of Bulletproof Reloaded, 294.57. John Kuntz in the Dude at 292.44. Cody Huffaker in Casper 2, which has been around for years. Another one of those old school trucks, 289.87. And Landon Cogburn, the Dirt Intimidator, 287.97. So really close, tight-knit field there. And then we had the Economod Big Blocks. First time they came out to pull with us, we had Brian Miller winning that in Roaring Red at 299.56. And then Zach Lussetto in Oddball at 285.18. And then we had our 2.6 diesel trucks, Jacob Ratcliffe, 322.05, and Eric Whitmarsh at 307.94. Our Superfields, we had Jacob McCullough at 337.50 and Gordon Messbergen at 310.26. The 6,500 Light Limited Pro Stocks, Dan Christensen and the Wanted at 308.16. Dave Todd with Deuces Wild at 294.51. Then we had our modified four-wheel drives. Had Bill Schwartz winning it at 322.64. Ronnie Green at 321 even. Nicole Lay, 313.15. Mike Franklin in Gone Nuts at 301.11. Our limited pro stock diesel trucks, Jim Kaufman was the only one that showed up. He went 328.90. The 466 light limited pro stock diesel tractors had Jeff McCullough and Chaotic at 348.93. Jim Darnell in Crazy Horse, 337.03. Jeff Darnell, Red Rider at 336.33. And Brad Zeech in Dark Horse at 256.68. Super Street Diesels, Ty Pennifold at 356.86. Darren Weaver, Strictly Business at 338.37. And that is actually Eric Whitmarsh's old truck. And Darren's been learning and actually been doing pretty good with it. His first time out with that truck, or first year in that truck. So good for him to come out and try it. Spike Fuller, Pavement Princess, 337.85. Chad Luce, Foolish Addictions, 317.61. Paul Speck, Old Yeller at 239.79. Shannon Kuhlman was our only two-wheel drive that showed up with Poor Boy at 330.05. And then you had Greg Gerben with both of his tractors. His Get Fired Up went 338.41. And Wild Thing 319.88. And because of some of the extra sponsorships that we had, we gave out a couple of special awards. They were for the longest distance pulled in both the truck classes all combined and the tractor classes all combined. So Mike Davies ended up winning that award with his pull of 360.66. And then Jeff McCullough won for all the tractor classes at 348.93. So that's the results. So we had some good ones there. And of course, our points battles. Let me pull that up here. Let's see. Work stock. Our champion for this year is Matt Heidemann. For our Economods, looks like that went to Kyle this year. Pro Stock 4x4s by a matter of 2 points. Landon Cogburn ended up winning it over John Kuntz. We got Jacob Ratcliffe ended up winning the Diesel 2.6 class. Let's see. Four-wheel drives. Ron Green ended up winning the championship by 6 points over Nicole. Junkyard Dog was third in points. Superfields, Jacob McCullough won that one. Mike Menike ended up winning the light or the limited pro stock diesel trucks. Jeff McCullough won the 4666 light limited pro championship. Super Streets ended up going to Spike Fuller. And then of course Greg Urban and Get Fired Up one for the tractors. So it was a pretty good year for us. We only had about 3 hooks that we that Mother Nature decided to say, nope, you're not going to have those ones. But all in all, we actually had a pretty good year this year. Well, I think you got your mic turned off there, Greg.
Yeah, I said you guys lost. Hang on just a second. I've got it. Okay, I said you guys lost what, Julesburg and Akron to weather. Is that correct?
We lost Julesburg, Akron, and Yuma. Because Yuma was our first one of the year. And we got the track ready to go, the sled in position. I was in position getting ready to start flagging. And then it started sprinkling, and then it downpoured.
Oh geez.
So we thought we were going to attempt to make up that show the Friday before our Sterling event, and obviously Mother Nature was like, you guys aren't going to pull in Yuma at all this year.
Took care of it twice. Oh mercy. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean it was funny because you had me, Cole, Jarrett, and a couple other people. We were all on our phones with our weather apps trying to watch it, figure out what was going on and if we could try to get it in. And every one of them was different and said something different, and we're like, no, we're not going to do it.
Oh, that's you can't, you can trust that a little bit, but not much.
That was the same thing up in Julesburg for us too. You could see just north of where the storm was sitting at, and weather apps were saying that if anything, we'd get like a little hook coming down from it and just a quick shower. Nope, straight downpour.
Yep. Well, we lost our North Platte show, and if you watch the radar after it started, there was a little red dot, and everything else was perfect. We got 5 miles away from the arena, and there was dust, and we literally got hailed on, and anything else you could get thrown at. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, no, I saw some videos.
It made for one of those experiences.
Mother Nature just sometimes don't like us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jason, if you don't mind just hanging on, so, I mean, stay on here a minute. We're going to visit about our banquet a little bit. I know we've done this a little bit already, but we're going to have our meeting November 4th in Kearney, Nebraska at the Giannis Center. We're hoping to get a good turnout. We've got some discussions on rules and a few different things that we need to take care of, and plus just do all the points champions and all of that stuff. We want to make sure we get it out there, that we have a deadline October 16th of getting rule change requests sent in. If they're sent in, after that, it'll be a discussion for next year. But so we need to make sure we get that shored up. If anybody has something they want to throw out there, it needs to be done sooner than later. Anything else, Jazz?
Scholarships.
Oh yeah. That's another date that is coming up rapidly. We have a $1,500 scholarship available to a Heartland member or family member. Oh, two of them.
15. The high school
Potentially
senior.
two scholarships available. That's a real nice deal that the national group is including us in. So we've got, possibility of two $1,500 scholarships could be given away into our Heartland group, which would be awesome. But that deadline is
that's
fast
good.
approaching.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's fast approaching. I do believe it's October 6th that stuff has to be sent in. If they have any questions, boy, get a hold of us. There's information on the National Outlaw website and paperwork and where that needs to be sent in. So, boy, I don't know too much else. I'm kind of excited to see. We got kind of a preview of the points payouts, and I'm kind of excited. We'll leave that one for it to be a little more of a surprise, but I feel like Outlaws take care of us well there. So, Dan, you got anything to add about the banquet?
Definitely for your little group there.
Oh, what's that, Jason?
I said, yeah, definitely for your little group there, Greg. I know how hard you guys have worked with that, and to be part of the Outlaws, I think that is a really good deal for you guys, and I'm happy for you guys to be a part of that. So,
yeah, it's been a good deal. It's not, as Dan can attest, not everything's perfect. We're still working on it, but in this world, perfection's up on a pedestal where we try to get to, but it's really hard to ever, get it perfect. But we'll keep striving. I'll answer this question. Dallas Todd, way before my time. I was 7 years old at that indoor pool. I'm pretty sure my parents even left me at home. I probably had to go to school or something. Dan said he doesn't cuss, but I'll still say it's crap. I got left home 2 or 3 times at the biggest pools in the world, and I'm like, I'm sure they had fun without me, but I didn't understand.
At least you didn't get dropped off on your first day of school.
Yeah.
And got to see and drive by.
I got left home from the Indy Super Bowl.
Oof.
I was not a happy guy. I was.
That's one you don't get over, is it?
I was 5 years old. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
I'd leave my kids home in a heartbeat.
I didn't get to go to Illinois or Indiana with you.
Here's one more. Somebody mentioned something about a Moline chassis for a light limited super. There is a very nice Autos from Missouri have a Moline chassis for sale, and Doug Meisinger has one as well. So there is 2 very nice chassis. We would love to have a few more light limited supers, huh, Dan?
Yeah, we would.
We would not complain a bit.
No, not at all.
I am pretty excited to now. I think we might have broke this last week that there is a new tractor in McCook.
Yep.
And I talked to the original owner, and we'll be looking forward to seeing that next summer.
Good.
It's one of them off-color green thing.
Yeah, nothing wrong with little green in there.
We need some of those too.
We do. We don't have enough.
Yeah. And on top of that, we have that meeting, and then also 2 weeks later, we will have the national meeting, Lake of the Ozarks. One horrible trip to get to a great place.
Yeah.
I got to drive 750 miles and part of the back roads in Missouri, but man, once we get there, it was a blast last year, and looking forward to going there again. And I believe, Dan, this will be your first trip.
Yeah, it will. I'm pretty excited. I've heard a lot of stories.
Be hard to top the first year I went.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got to hang out with firemen, and somebody climbed the fire truck. I mean, it was sketchy good time.
Yeah.
So
hope it's not me this time. Yeah.
Yeah. Dallas Todd, that tractor got sold back into Pennsylvania. I don't know the whereabouts of it right now. I've kind of heard rumors that it might be in West Virginia, which it's all within, a few hundred miles there. But I was sad day to see that Ford head down the road after Windsor, Colorado.
Yeah. What did they turn that tractor into?
I've seen that thing with 20.8s on it. I've seen it with 24.5s on it. I do not know what class or where it ended up, because they do not have the Superfield class out in Pennsylvania. It's there's obviously modified versions of limited RPM and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it ended up.
Yeah, Last I had seen it had 24 5s on it, so I didn't know what they were doing with it. So
yes, okay. Well, we'll get back back with you, Jason. You got to tell me how you got roped into being an announcer, because that's just not something. I mean, that take a little bit to get into that and survive that one in my world.
Basically, it kind of happened. Wasn't I think last year, we had the garden tractors pulling up in Brighton, and that was one of the ones that our regular announcer couldn't make, and so they had one of the pullers actually do the announcing, and I wasn't too thrilled with the way he was announcing. And I said something to Nicole. I said, I mean, he kind of took away from the show at one of our biggest events in Brighton. I said, next time you need somebody to announce, I'll just do it for you.
Yeah.
So I just volunteered, and then that was how that all came about, and that. So.
And was Sterling your first?
Sometimes
announcing?
certain people. Sterling was the first official announcing that I did.
Okay, and you did a great job for being your first
Arapahoe this year. Thank you. I mean, just from growing up and listening to, like Army Armstrong and all those guys on TV, and then following NSPA for the few years that I had before, helping them out, with Jim Hudson, doing the announcing for NSPA. I just kind of learned that it's good to know your information. And I even had somebody actually in Brighton this year. Actually, one of the fans, he said, you're really good at what you're doing, because you say just enough to keep the audience informed and entertained, but you're not over talking to lose them. So I felt, I said, hey, I'm like, hey, thank you, I appreciate it, and that just kind of made me feel like, okay, I'm doing things the right way, and if the pullers are liking it, and the fans are liking it, then I'll just keep doing it my way of just making sure that there's enough information as far as the history goes, of what I know and what I can remember, and share it with everybody.
Yes. It's one of the toughest jobs out there.
Oh yeah.
And that was why, with the this whole deal that we had with Corey Schwab with Pulling Texas coming up and filming it, the whole thing, and actually live streaming it on Facebook. I approached Nicole and I said, if it's going to be live, I said, let's have both me and Chuck announce. I said, Chuck's good at getting things going and helping to move the show along. And I felt that with me knowing the history and having the notes that I have from the history of that I know from the pullers, that I can, we could play off of each other. And I've had, several different people that I've talked to. They said that it was a really good show. Even that Corey from Pulling Texas had messaged me before we got on air, and he said, you guys did a really good job of doing the announcing and doing the dual announcing. And I was the one that was primarily doing the interviews for all the winners of the classes and that. So, because again, with me knowing the history, knowing the sport inside and out like I did, I mean, to interview people like, Bill Schwartz and Ron Green and all that, at the end of a pool. I mean, it was one of the best ones I think we had, and hopefully, in our off season and when we have our meeting, I can talk to Nicole and maybe we can do that dual announcing again all year, because I had a blast working with Chuck, and and we had fun, bantering back and forth between green and red and all that too. So
yes. And the kid with the Pulling Texas, I'm not gonna lie, I would have liked to have got down there and seen. I know he does a very good job with what equipment he has, and for a one-man deal, he does an awesome job. He really does.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
Yeah, he does. In fact, he's already got two of the videos done already up on his YouTube page, Pulling Texas, where he's got the Pro Stock and the modified four-wheel drives. He posted those up about yesterday, and then earlier today, like mid-afternoon, I think he had the Economods, the modified tractors, and Shannon's two-wheel drive on that video. And he's got more to come too.
Oh.
And in fact, I think that background is one of the pictures that he had from what he took too, that Dan's got on his background there.
Yep, that is one he took. Yep.
Yeah.
He did a great job. And that's one thing about Jason, a good announcer, it needs to do their homework and and have a little background in it. And you do. That's one thing that impresses me about you, Jason, is you know the history behind the pickups and the tractors. I know you've talked to me about the history of my tractor. I mean, you go out and get that information and share it with the crowd, and that's what makes a good announcer. And like I say, for Sterling being your first time, I thought you did a great job. I'll be the first one to tell you whether you did or didn't. And no, you're doing a great job. I mean, you're only going to get better, and I don't think there's anybody that's got any complaints about your knowledge in tractor pulling and bringing it to the polls and to the fans. I mean, you just do a great job.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, it means a lot to us because we as pullers all know the history of each other's tractors, but the crowd doesn't, and the people at home that watch on a live stream or whatever don't. And the best way to get it is from the announcer, so
I'm going to disagree with Dan.
Yeah.
As a pullers, there's a lot of us that don't know all the history between. I mean, there's some people that have pulled a long time that don't realize some of the stuff, little things with the, just like the history of your tractor is amazing. That thing's been places and pulled at the Enderley. And I mean, that tractor's been around the block.
Yeah.
And likewise, you can go down the list and see some of them, like the Casper truck. I know that truck has pulled a long time and maybe in a couple different groups. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a Rocky Mountain truck pullers. What's that?
Do you remember, Greg? Because I was trying to think of this on Saturday, or actually no, yesterday when I was watching the Pulling Texas video on it. Do you remember who the original owner was of that truck?
The what's that?
Who the original owner was of the Casper 2 truck?
I vaguely remember a Rod Gettle, but I think there was somebody before that. And, I think because I don't remember a tremendous amount in the Colorado group. I think there was some stuff previous to that because this will go way back in the Colorado deal, but years ago, the Colorado didn't have any pickups. But there was a Rocky Mountain truck pullers, and that's where a lot of the Earl Fultons and, and I think Dallas Snyder might have had a hand in that. But Ron Green, a lot of those guys come in and merged in with the Colorado tractor pullers, the CTPA at the time, the NTPA group. They kind of merged together. So, it wasn't like it's kind of crazy how it started out maybe as two groups and then got into the Colorado, truck and tractor pullers. And the Lloyd Durfees, and there's a lot of names there that come out of that Rocky Mountain group. That's history that honestly I am not the greatest at. That's something that really, Jason, you could probably sit down with the Ron Green and pull a lot of information out of that guy.
Oh yeah, that's kind of what I plan on doing. Especially for next year, if we can do this dual announcing thing, is to sit down more with some of the pullers of especially some of the older vehicles, and try to get more of the history of it. And I think they have on the tail of the Casper truck, who was the that ghetto that you're talking about, memory of him on there. So that might be the owner I was thinking of, and
I don't know the connection between them and Huffaker's, if there is even any, but I just remember Gettle from, and that was really early NSPA days probably. And, you look at Nicole's Burning the Midnight Oil truck went through a couple owners before it got to them too. That originally was, I remember a Todd Raffelli pulling that truck out of Sterling area. And then you take
that name kind of sounds familiar.
You forgive me on this one. The yellow truck, is that the one that is it the Dirt Intimidator?
That is
now,
Randy Kerr's old truck. Yeah,
yes.
The Dirt Intimidator now used to be Randy Kerr's River Rat. And I know even past it used to be a truck that was owned even before. I think Randy had it, and I've got to get a message out to Jim Hudson, because I know he used to talk about that when he was announcing that it was actually different names. So I'm going to try to reach out to him for like next year and get a little bit more history on that truck.
It's killing me right now because it come out of Tribune, Kansas.
Really?
Yeah, because it was that truck, and I'll tell you what, that thing bounced around more than Dan's tractor, because it's Dave or David something, and I cannot think of his name right now. He had that truck right there, and I believe Nicole bought it or something, because there's a good story behind that truck. At one time, it was named Cheaper Than a Wife after a divorce. And right. Okay. Yeah, because see, then it went to Randy and then come back to Nicole. It kind of bounced around. But it's killing me. I can't think of the old boy's name from Tribune, Kansas, because he actually had the I don't know, it'd be a few years back too, but Sully's had the Heat Wave pickup. Dave Billinger. Showing my age here a little bit. But Dave Billinger had that Pro Stock and a mod 4x4 out of Tribune, Kansas for a while. I mean, these trucks have moved around. It's been kind of interesting.
Was there many vehicles come out of that Southwest Kansas area?
Southwest Kansas, not a lot.
I was going to say.
But I'm going to tell you what, some of the stuff that come out of there, Doug Drussel is a name that does not get enough credit in the pulling world in general. And he was down in that Southwest Kansas. And I've heard stories of the people that got started, some of the Dave Bambers and some of, Doug used to be the owner of Outlaws.
Oh.
Learned a ton from Drussel. And, he was one of the pioneers of the first alcohol tractors, and he taught a bunch of the people, Brian Connors, Doug Roberts, all those guys were basically taught by Doug Drussel in Southwest Kansas.
Wow.
And I heard stories about Rich Lustig's tractor being out there where it was in a back room where none of those guys they couldn't get back. They couldn't see it. And he built aluminum sheet metal. And this is all stuff that happened in the 80s.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's another guy that you could do a whole segment on. So, yeah, the history, I love the history part, because there's so many of those trucks. Like I said, they bounced around, and, there's not too many guys that were like,
do you
Bill
remember
Swartz,
an old
who had the same truck forever?
Oh, yeah. Do you remember an old two-wheel drive that was a yellow Chevrolet, and it was called Evil Attitude?
A what now?
It's an old two-wheel drive. I want to say probably the same year as like Burning the Midnight Oil and Dirt Intimidator. And it was called Evil Attitude.
Evil Attitude. I don't write off. There was a guy from Kansas.
Yeah, because not too many people remember that truck. I had a picture of it at one time, but it's up in Canada right now, still pulling.
Well, see, okay. that truck showed up in California when we were out there at the World Ag Expo.
Really?
Yeah, and I believe Fred Choker had it at the time up in Northwest Washington.
Oh, okay.
Goes way back. Yeah. So
You're old, Greg.
you didn't know this already, Dan?
I'm not far behind you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, very cool. Well, Dan, I'm going to let you finish up. I will go back and I want to hear the question of what you would drive. If you had a chance to drive any vehicle in any place, what would it be, Jason?
From watching Jason Schultz on his stuff, and when Big Rye always asked everybody in that, I've always thought about that question. And me having so many favorites. I mean, you got Tony Osteen's Georgia Rebel truck out of Georgia. Of course, the 37 Chevy of Alan Gaines. But I would have to say probably the old 7-engine Mission Impossible at Bowling Green.
Yeah, that would be something. So, guys, I have to bounce on you, as Dan well knows. I got signed up in the bowling league, but I'll let you guys finish up. Jason, thank you so much.
Greg, one request.
Yep.
Thank you, Greg.
Can we get a short video of you bowling for next week?
There's some crap you don't need to see. It ain't a thing of beauty, Dan.
Are you signing up for the bowling tournament at the national convention then?
Hell no.
Why not? I'll bring my balls out if you will. I'm a bowler too. What can I say?
I'm glad that went a different direction.
Hey, get your mind out of the gutter.
Think of what you said, Dan.
Hey, I've got about 10 bowling balls sitting in my closet waiting to be used again. So
yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
You bet. We'll see you. I gotta get out of here right shortly too. So, but no. Okay. I got a good question for you. Since now you're an announcer, what event, if you could announce any, would you announce?
whoa. I would say Bowling Green.
Good enough. Fair enough.
Just because that's one of the biggest pools around, and that is on my bucket list of places to go.
Mine too.
And watch pulling, because I mean that one year when I was following live on their live timing and scoring on their webpage, where they had like 50. One of their tractor classes, I can't remember which one it was, but they had 50 tractors in that class, and half of the field went full pull. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's I got a friend of mine that married a gal from out there, and she's always talked about it. And I heard the festivities in the campgrounds are just as fun as watching the pull after. So I need to go sometime.
I've heard that too, and that's like, I got to go take that experience. But then my second one, as an honorary mention thing, would be Wisner, Nebraska.
Wisner, yeah,
because I think that's a neat little pool that they have, and not as big as Bowling Green, but looks like it's just as fun in the setting that they have. So,
yep. Have you ever been to Wisner?
I have not yet. That is another bucket list thing. I've got plans to go there. It's just a matter of just trying to get the money and
Yep.
To get hotel pretty much and that, because that'd be something I would drive to. But
that is a good one. That you would enjoy that. Going through the pits and everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
I watched yeah, that's the part of the pits is what I like. Is it kind of being there in the amongst the trees and all that, and and then watching it last year on Outlaw TV when I had the subscription. I was just like, that's still one good place. Sadly, both of those pools have to be on the same weekend, so it's like, no.
Yeah, that's my one destination pull to go with my little tractor and pull there. Is that just it's a cool place to pull. It really is. So, but yeah, so you are planning on announcing more next year, possibly full time then?
I would love to, and that's obviously something, like I said, I'm going to talk with Nicole with, and I'm sure Chuck, when I talked to him on Saturday before our pulling brush, he's like, I have no problem with it, because even he said, he's like, you've probably forgotten more than what I know, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job. You guys fed well off of each other too.
Yeah, and that's and that's what I really liked about it, because Chuck knows the tractors because of his auctioneering background and that, because that's what he does. So he knows, the history and the nuances of some of the tractors. But when it comes to knowing the history of the pulling behind those tractors, and even the history, that most people don't realize of the sled that we use, it helps make the show go good, with having both, strong points working together to make a very good show. So
Yep. And you guys did do that. Like I say, you kept the crowd engaged, and there wasn't a lot of dead moments there during the poll. You guys did a great job. So it's always that, and that's one of my favorite polls at the end of the year to go to. They get such a good crowd, and the crowd's into it, and just a good spot to have a poll.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I mean, that, to me, I think that's one of the hardest ones. Again, with only one spot to put the sled, and it doesn't give you guys that much of a chance to really say, well, I want to go to the right or go to the left. You literally have to come out of the hole at the same spot as everybody else does, and then get to the spot you want to get to on the track. And I don't know if you guys heard me say it during the announcement of that, but that, by far, that track we had Saturday night, I think, was one of the best tracks that we've ever had up there in Brush.
The 4 or 5 years I've been there, that was it caught me with my pants down. That's why that thing's so high in the air. But yeah, it had me fooled. It bit hard, and the nice thing about that,
I almost
go ahead.
I almost yelled at you, and I saw you take the weight off of the nose and put it on there behind your front tires. I looked over and I saw you. I'm like, I hope he knows what he's doing.
and I did. We'll blame Dave Todd for that one. But no, and that's the nice thing. That was the other thing. You're everybody starting in the same hole, same position in the track. You kind of found out who the drivers were too. You had to drive it out of the hole. You just didn't let the clutch out and throw the throttle ahead and you went. You really had to drive coming out of there, and that's the kind of tracks I like. It is a challenge, something where you have to drive it. It isn't, like I say, just let the clutch out and throw the throttle ahead and go. So
no, and you, especially on the 4-wheel drive class, when the modifieds, you can kind of see the difference between everybody. And what the ones that stood out for me the most was Nicole literally hammered out the door, didn't even give it a chance. But then you look at Bill Schwartz, who's sitting there, and you can tell he's working it, and letting the truck tell him, or letting the track tell the truck what it wants.
Yep.
And then finally, at about 100 feet, then he starts calling on the power.
Yep.
And that's, and then you can see, like, even in the pro stock 4-wheel drive class, I mean, Cody Huffaker with Casper, he was sawing on that wheel coming down that left side, just trying to, get that traction to keep going.
Yep.
And I think in any discipline, as far as motorsports go, obviously it's you're always trying to be able to get the power that you have in the motor to the tires to grip to what you're doing. But I think in the sport of truck and tractor pulling, it is more prevalent, because you've got 30+ thousand pounds behind you, trying to stop you from going as far as you can. And as soon as you lose momentum, your run's done.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of timing involved in that too, because you can wait too long and the box is up on you and you aren't going anywhere. You know, that's like I say, that's what I like about kind of them kind of tracks. I know they're a challenge, and that's what I would rather go do than go hook to a hard hooking track and go. You know, that anybody can do that, but to actually have a challenge and know how to drive it, bring it out of the hole, or do what you think is right. I've been caught with my pants down doing it wrong, but you know, that to me, that's fun.
Yeah, because I would say that this year, as far as all of our tracks that we pulled on this year, I think the one that was the most challenging for all of our competitors this year was Brighton. Actually, this year, it seemed to be a lot more sandy than in years past, and everybody was over on the grandstand side of the track, and trucks that normally don't bounce were bouncing really bad. And I mean, the distances were kind of short there, but it's again, you know, it's a matter of kind of knowing what track you're on and getting that power to be able to bite.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one track I've never pulled on, and they draw one hell of a crowd there. I would like to pull there, hopefully maybe next year or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that crowd is just crazy there. I mean, I've never seen so many cameras out, video and stuff going down the track. It is just unreal.
And I will say, by far, that is one of the best crowds to get a response out of. Because I did during the Pro Stock 4-wheel drives, you know, I only talked about the Fords and the Chevys. And John Kuntz was the last one to come out. And I was like, oh, and by the way, you Dodge fans.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of playing with the crowd a little bit. And our scorekeeper, Tori Weber, her mom was sitting right there with her. And when I did that, she looked at me. She's like, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" I said, "Kind of not really, but it worked out that way."
It worked for you, didn't it? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, no,
but that crowd in Brighton by far is one of the best responding crowds. You know, I mean, like you heard me and Chuck at Brush, you know, asking, "Hey, you know, you think this guy's going to get the lead and things like that?" Yeah, they were responsive in Brush. But in Brighton, they are a lot more responsive and a lot louder when it comes to, you know, getting the crowd involved in things like that, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I was there, wasn't last, I guess it's been 2 years ago we were there. I don't know whether they get 4,000 or 5,000 people there. I mean, it's crazy how many people they have there. And that's just a county fair, right?
Yes, that is the Adams County Fair, and the sad part is we always have to follow because the night before us, the demolition derby guys. So we have to always walk the track when we're building it to make sure we don't get any metal shavings or bolts or anything off from the demo guys in there. So, but
yeah, I was there one year, and
that's why they have us.
One of Urban's tractors threw up a doorknob out of the track.
Really?
Yeah, they had RVs at the end of the demo derby with RVs.
Oh. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that seems like that's what we always follow as a demo derby if you go to a county fair for some reason.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. Why?
Yeah.
The best show on one of the best shows on dirt always has to follow the. You know, I mean, not to knock demo derbies because those guys, they put a lot of time and effort into those derby cars. But I mean, come on, put those guys at the end of the fair.
Yeah.
Well, I want to throw up a video from those Pulling Texas guys at Brush real quick.
Okay.
I can remember how. Music with you. Pause it right now, buddy. Why?
It's music.
Oh yeah, these are the. Yep, and this was the one I was talking about earlier with Shannon, where she got a little swirly there.
But she came back and did a good job.
Great job.
Yep.
It's a good time to have first hook.
Yeah. Yeah, that saved me.
Yeah,
once
waste your hook, go out of bounds, come back around, and then almost take it.
Yep.
Well, some places it's better than a DQ. So
That's right.
Yes.
Been down that road. So, well, if you want to play this in closing, Jazz, I do have to get out of here. So
that'll work.
Jason, perfect timing. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you somewhere down the road.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Oh yeah, we'll see you somewhere down the road. Hopefully I'll get out there and actually watch some Heartland pools this next coming year. But
nope, that sounds good. We'll see you guys. We'll see everybody next week.
See ya. Thank you, Dan.
All righty, have a good one.